Welcome to the Financial Freedom Mastermind Group podcast. Here we're all about breaking free from the 40 to 50-year work grind and accelerating our journey towards financial freedom. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast-track your path to financial independence. We serve as a hub for connecting with fellow members during our sessions so you can share successes, ask questions, and keep the momentum going.
Good evening, everyone. This is Niyi Adewole, host of the Ekabo Financial Freedom Mastermind group. And today we are kicking it back off with an open session. And it's been a minute since we've had one of these. I know I had a hiatus for a bit, and so I'm excited to get back into doing the open sessions. And I'm especially excited to do it with the Zoom setting. So moving this to Zoom allows a lot more of our members to be able to join even while they're on the go. Because some people are just getting off of work or wanting to maybe be on the road traveling and still be able to join from their phone. And so that's why we listen to you and put this onto a Zoom session. And moving forward, that's how we're going to be recording our sessions is via Zoom. And so again, this is an open session. So I'm going to pause and just hang out here until somebody joins and we will get it going from there. Claudia, long time no see. How you doing? And Claudia, can you hear me? I can hear you. How
Can you
you
hear
been?
me? Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing well. I'm actually being low key right now. Like I'm on the clock, but it's kind of pretty like chill. So I am tuning in from work, but I am here and I am tuned in.
Hey, come on now. I love to hear it, and I'm happy that we can do this via Zoom so that more people can join from phones and things of that nature. If you want to be real low key, feel free to drop anything into the chat. But this is an open session, and so I'm here to answer any questions, talk about whatever, and kind of go from there. So if you got something top of mind, hit me with it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you remember how I told you? Yeah. So I actually got both my rooms filled up. So I could say like so far it's been like 2 months. I would say so far. So everything is kind of cool. Like, they pay on time as far as like rent and stuff like that. I would say like the only hiccup I probably had one time, but it's all straightened out now. And I think I'll probably like fix this in the future. But with my first tenant, the one that moved in, because my utilities are separate from the rent. So then, yeah, so when the utilities came out, I texted him like a screenshot, of the bill and kind of like broke down the costs and things like that. So I noticed like he kind of paid the next month rent, but didn't cut the utilities from the prior month. But like it's kind of been lingering, for a little minute now. So I don't know. Basically, I kind of had to not say get it out of him, but like, I don't know how to explain it, but you just got to be kind of like, not
Firm.
say firm, but you got to just take care of business. You can't really let stuff slide. Like, because if I would have let it slide, he would have just thought it was okay. So you just
Yeah,
got to put
and you're
certain
spot
feelings to the
on.
side.
You're spot on. It's one of those things where what you have to do is remain firm to your lease agreement and what everybody signed. And as long as you are firm to that and you discuss that up front when somebody's coming through, you're not the bad guy. The lease is the bad guy. You have to follow the lease, otherwise there's no structure. And so I've done a lot of roommate situations like that, especially when I was living up in Boston. And it always came down to that lease agreement. How were you doing as far as and did you implement like a roommate agreement for personal hygiene? Like, hey, no dishes in the sink. If you put it in the sink, you wash it that same day. Did you implement stuff like that to help with the living?
Yeah, I did implement stuff like that. So during the tours, that was like one of the things I kind of went over with the tenants, and then after they kind of moved in individually, like I went over it. But one thing I haven't done is like sit both of them down as like a group and kind of like go over it together. So I haven't done that, but I really haven't done that only because they really haven't given me an issue as far as like, dishes being piled up in the sink or the bathroom being clean. Like they really just keep everything clean. So as far as like that, it's been like calm, and smooth. I'm not gonna say the sink is empty all the time, but it's never like a pile of dishes, and it never stays there for too long. So I'm not tripping about that. So on that
Come
aspect,
on.
like, yeah, everything is cool. Everybody minds their own business. One of the guys, they don't even really stay there like that. I don't know. He comes for like 2 seconds and then leaves out, but he pays, so I'm not tripping.
Hey, those are the best tenants, especially in the house hack situation. And so let me ask you this. How does it feel having it rented out? And is it covering most of the mortgage, if not all the mortgage?
Yeah, yeah. So it's actually working out really well. So one person, I have one room is so in total I'm getting 1,400 a month, but my mortgage is 17. So essentially I'm paying like $300 a month right now. I
It's
mean,
not
I'll
bad.
say like I'll put that in low key quotations because essentially how I'm saving up for like the duplex, I'm really just taking all that rental income and just putting it away to like a money market savings. So I'm still continuing to kind of pay the mortgage myself, but like, cause all that rental is kind of going into savings, cause I
I
kind of
love
need that to kind of get my next one. So I don't know. It could be a break, but not really, if that makes sense.
it's because you're looking to get bigger and continue growing. But that was one of the hacks that I realized too when I started house hacking back in Louisville in 2016 was I went from paying $1,200 a month in rent in Kentucky to now paying zero and really just saving all that money for the next deal. And so I always look at savings as a win as well. If you were to go try to rent a 3 bed, 2 bath in the metro of Atlanta, minimum, you're looking at like 2 grand, minimum. And that's like on the outskirts, right? It can go as high as, 2,500, 3 grand, and maybe a little bit higher depending on where you go. And so the fact that you
Mhm.
can have only $300 out of pocket on a monthly basis and be able to save the rest is a huge win. And it allows you the flexibility to, again, move out, rent your room out, and then go ahead and buy another property when the time comes.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. It's cool though. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's some things I do need to work on. Like, as far as like my spending wise, I ain't gonna lie. Cause sometimes, it's summertime too. I still like I could spend like a little bit of money, but that's something I can kind of like touch up on. Cause I do be like I got certain goals I gotta reach, so I can't. I gotta budget myself. But other than that, like the extra money is cool. The extra money it is cool. But I
Yeah.
don't want to
And
look at it as like extra money in
no,
my head.
no. It's one where it's like, hey, you're going to put that money to work because you know it could have went to rent, but you're well ahead of the curve. One of the things that I did early on in my career, and I forget where I got this from, probably a podcast or something, but I always looked at my gross income, not the net. I just looked at the gross income that I get each year, and 25% of that was the max I was willing to pay out of pocket for rent or a mortgage. And so the way I define that is what am I actually paying out of pocket, right? So if I'm house hacking and I can get one of the units to cover 90% of the mortgage, then I can go up to 25% of my income for the rest of that mortgage. And it helped me get more and more properties. And when you look at like spending money on actually living, you do have to do that too, because there's only certain seasons in life that you'll take trips of a certain kind, or you'll go do, like for example, in 2020, every year I take a trip for my B day. And in 2020, a lot of people were nervous about it. My B day is in October, and a lot of people were
Mhm.
nervous because of COVID and things of that nature. But I said, you know what? Forget it. I'm still gonna go. I ended up going to Dubai and I ended up doing skydiving, which was pretty incredible. So it was like an
Mm.
unforgettable experience. But looking back, now I'm moving into a phase where I'm starting a family and things of that nature. I don't know that I'd go skydiving anytime soon, right? It's just a different phase of life. Like that was, 5 years ago, and things have changed since then. And so
Yeah.
you got to enjoy life in the seasons that you're in as well. But what you're doing, which I love, is you're taking one of the largest expenses. Most people are paying upwards of 50% of their income for where they live, and you've reduced that significantly. And if you do that, man, and you put that money to use, my goodness, you're well ahead of the curve.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm a little bit too hard on myself. I don't know. I think I'm supposed to be good at this like ASAP, but I don't know. It's just
No.
about having faith, Nia. I'm not gonna lie.
That's it. And honestly, it's one of those things where it's hard to see it until you've gone through a full cycle. The thing that keeps me going is I've been through a full cycle. I bought that first triplex. I sold it 5 years later and saw how much value I got from it and the cash flow. And the cool thing about real estate is it just gets better over time. And the way that you're doing it, it's almost more passive. Like you have to have somewhere to live anyway. And so you're living and you're allowing your living space to generate income for you. And man, like I'm actually sitting in the back unit because it's empty today. Somebody checks in for this weekend in the back unit of my duplex. So I'm house hacking right now, right? I got a 5 bed, 4.5 bath in the back. That's a luxury short-term rental. Where I'm sitting is at the dining area where we put like kind of like a banquet area over here. And this back unit brings in enough to cover about 80% of the mortgage on a monthly basis. and then we pay for the rest and live in the front. And so there's many ways that you can continue doing this as you continue to level up. But what you're doing is amazing. You got in for the lowest amount that you can get in, and now you're saving up to do the next one.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's just a couple things that I'm worried about as far as like transitioning from my first one to my second one. Cause I know I guess to get the second one, I have to show that I have a lease in place that's covering the mortgage. So the lease that I have right now, hopefully they renew so I could just like ease myself up of kind of like the turnaround time of looking for another tenant. I don't know. Like say if I have I don't know, say if I have enough money but my place is like vacant, or say if even just managing the other property when I do get the second one, because I don't know. I think I just have to like write out a plan, like legit, like to see how I'm gonna go to my first one and my second one, and how I'm gonna manage the first one when I do get my second one. And hopefully it's not a headache and a hassle, and nothing is like really vacant to the point where I'm paying for my second one and my first one together, because that is kind of what I don't want. Because if it's
Agree.
vacant, I'm still that's just on me. But
Agree. And the cool thing
I'm
is,
not sure. Like I'm not sure if you like kind of remember how my house looked, because I know you like you have plenty clients and stuff like that. So
no, I do. I remember kind of the split up, and I do love that kitchen. And it's one of those where when you're looking at what you have, there's two ways to look at it. One is right now you have your first place, you're living there, you're renting the other two out, and you could just move out and rent your room out as well and have those
mhm.
three kind of continue. And the fact that you've already lived with two people there is going to make it easier for those guys to transition another roommate. I did the same. And I didn't own the place, but I did the same when I left Philly, right? When I was in Philly, I lived with two roommates. And then when I moved to Chicago, I just sublet my portion to somebody else and had that person introduce themselves to the other people, made sure everybody was good with that person, and then moved them in and kept going. That's one way. The other way is I believe you furnished a bit of these rooms, right? Didn't you furnish like some of the living room areas and maybe the bedrooms?
Yeah, the right now everything is furnished right now.
And that's your furniture?
Yes.
You could potentially turn it into a short-term rental as well. Like this is a house where if the mortgage is right around 1700, maybe 1800, you don't have to do much to make that mortgage as a short-term rental or a furnished rental. And then another option is you could potentially rent it out to one group. You don't have to necessarily be the one that's managing the room by room. The reason you're doing it now is because you live there. You want to vet those people and make sure. But if you're not the one that's living there, you could potentially rent that whole place out to, at minimum, cover the mortgage, but really give you a little bit of cash flow. And then when you move into the next place, it's all about just running the numbers. We just helped another client purchase their second house hack in the last year and a half. Their first one was a single family with the in-law suite, and then now they purchased a duplex, and they're going to move into one of the units and continue to do the same thing. And all they're doing is turning their previous unit into a rental. So I'd argue that's honestly a little bit easier once you already have the first property to move into the next one because you've put some of the systems in place that you're going to need for the next one, and you've learned a lot of the lessons of how to get better.
Right, for sure. And my next one, I am looking to buy a duplex. But as far as like the multi-family side of things in Georgia, I know it's like limited amount of like how much is like kind of going around. So I don't know. Hopefully I catch one, because I don't know. I just want to scale up. I just want to make use of the residential, the conventional loans, because I know you only get so much. And there's no difference between if it's a single family versus a duplex, triplex, and quad. So before I become not eligible for those anymore, I just want to utilize it as much as possible instead of just doing, single family, another single family, and another one. All right, I got the single family here. I learned I'm pretty sure it's probably the same as managing a duplex, so might as well get a duplex and then just kind of scale up from there. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
and
Let's see how
honestly,
that
that's a
goes
way
though.
to kind of make it go even faster, right? So you have the single, you know how to manage that one. And so if you get a duplex for the next one, now you're doubling the number of units you have essentially, and it's not much harder than what you're doing right now. Like you're literally doing probably the hardest house hack and the most uncomfortable house hack. If you move into a duplex and you have another unit that you're renting out, my goodness, you're going to be off to the races.
Yeah, I agree with you, because even while doing the tours, because I was having a decent amount of traffic that was coming in when I was kind of marketing my first property. And as far as other people that will reach out, they're either looking for a whole kind of apartment, or just things of that sort. So I just know it would get rented out quick if I was probably to get a duplex, and if somebody was to have their own space.
Come on now. And welcoming my guy back to the Financial Freedom Mastermind podcast, Desmond. What is up, man? How you been? And of course, he has technical difficulties. Desmond, we can't hear you. What's going on? He's working on it. Desmond is one of the individuals that has gotten a couple of those small multifamilies and figured out how to make it work. And so, definitely a good person to connect with. But Desmond, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right, cool. What's up, man? How are you doing? Good to see you
I'm
again.
super good. How you been, man? Did you cut
Man,
your
been
hair
amazing.
shorter?
Yeah, man. I cut my hair a bit short. I'm rocking the fade now.
You trying to be like me, man? Soon it's
I
gonna
was
be
just gonna say
just
I'm just a
clean.
few guards away from where you're at.
No, that's fair. I was just with AJ like
Okay.
last week, and you remember AJ had like the huge, like dreads, everything. It's gone. I'm like, what the heck? What is everybody doing now, man?
No, man. I saw him on IG, and I know for me, I was trying to step into like the grown and sexy era. I don't know AJ, but I hope he
Hey,
joins.
hey, he's not here to defend himself, so I'm gonna wait till he get on. That's fair. That's fair. No, how was everything coming with the properties? How's everything coming even outside of that? What's going on with you?
Yeah, man, things have been up and down. It's been great in terms of the properties for sure. So I'd say at this point, like things are stabilized 100%. Like I'd say for the most part, I'm able to run the B&Bs, run the long terms, mostly autonomously. I'm actually sitting here in Italy right now. I don't know if you can see it. You can't see, I've got some canal behind me. It's a little dark, but I'm in Venice right now.
Oh, I love
Hey,
Venice. That's amazing.
hey, dude, it's so nice. And then we were in
Yeah.
Milan yesterday, or a couple of days ago, and then we're heading to Bologna tomorrow. So doing like a Italy trip. This week we were in Switzerland last week, so kind of
Come
bouncing
on
around.
now.
Yeah, bro. So it's nice. And I'll say house hacking has, in part allowed me to do that. So huge advocate of house hacking. I know we were, talking about that a little bit before. So yeah, man, it's been great. It's been awesome. It's been a wild ride. I had the flood last year, so that was like crazy. The first insurance claim, right? I think I did a little bit over 60K in renovations, but man, like thank God for that flood policy. And it's so funny too, like when we were doing the close, it's like, man, like this flood policy, like another bill. And dude, when Hurricane Helene came through, I was like, thank God that I did have that. So yeah, it's been interesting. I got laid off a couple of months ago. So
What?
that's been an interesting ride. Yeah. So I don't know if you heard the news, a lot of tech layoffs and
Dude,
whatnot
the
going
AI
on.
stuff is like I know some people right now where it's very difficult to even get back into a different role because they're replacing a lot, but so it affected you.
Yeah. So it did. And I got laid off like literally like in June. So a couple of months ago now. I was going on 6 years at Microsoft. So, but I will say though, like the one word I keep coming back to out of all of this is gratitude and just being grateful for some of the decisions that I made in 2022 and then, in 2024 with the second purchase and having that, give me some extended runway now to where I don't necessarily have to go and, just jump back into the job market or worry about like, some of the things that some of my peers, are worrying about. And it's tough, right? Like I'm not the only one that was affected, right? I have multiple friends and whatnot that were affected as well. So I think man, I'm like so grateful that just got into house hacking, got into real estate, man. And it's crazy just because like I think for such a long time, like I felt like being in a 9 to 5 and having that sort of security was like what I had looked to gain for like a lot of part of my life and like going to college and whatnot, and now not having that, I'm like, man, like thank God I like at least have like this on the side. So yeah, man, it's been my saving grace. It's been awesome. Like I'm not too stressed, technically necessarily about it. I'm in Italy, so like,
Come on
you
now.
know
It's hard to be stressed in Venice, man.
honestly, but honestly, so yeah, it's been interesting. That's why I had mentioned it's kind of been a wild ride, but yeah, it's been fun.
No, Desmond, first and foremost, I know you're going to land on both your feet and be a-okay, but I love the fact that you were almost running maniacally to get the properties that you do have so that you can have that setup. That was similar to what I was doing. I was working at Baxter. I was happy with the job, right? But I was like, you know what? Just in case one day my number's called, let me build these properties up. And you'd be surprised just like how little you actually need when you think about it. Like if you're covering your living expenses, that's majority of the cost. The rest of this stuff is more like you're spending money to do work, you know? So I'm pumped for you that you were able to do that piece. And you're spot on. I think what's happening with this AI boom, it's being talked about, but not enough. Like jobs are not getting replaced. You know, even the latest jobs report that they had to write down a whole bunch of jobs for the previous months because they messed the report up. It's real. Like I know people right now with MBAs,
Hmm.
multiple master's degrees, and they're not able to get hired at a different role. But the
Yeah.
thing that this does give you, and I know that you're a super sharp guy and you've already done some things on the side from an entrepreneurial standpoint, is it gives you room to think. And I know on this trip you're probably writing down notes, or I hope you're writing down notes. I don't know if you write down goals, but I hope you're writing that stuff down. But it gives you some time to think about, hey, what do you actually want to do next? Do you want to start something on the side? Do you want to maybe go into get a license, become a real something of that nature, right? There's things that you can do. And so have you started thinking through that?
Yeah, absolutely. And like in a weird way, it's kind of like been a blessing because, I don't think I ever could have voluntarily walked away from a job like that, or at least it would have been a lot tougher to do so, right? And, as compared to being kind of kicked out. So definitely harder to walk away from something like that. They call it the golden handcuffs, I think, for a reason. And yeah, it's been a very kind of interesting, in a way weird, but you know, just a blessing in a sense of having that pause and also again having some of that runway to be able to take a step back, say, okay, I've been kind of on this path for, the last 5 or 6 years, even before that, in college, studying a degree geared toward the job that I was in. And now I'm like, yeah, well, taking a step back, what do I really want to do? And also, it's really interesting too, just in the time that we're in, right? So, just for context of folks who are listening or even on the call, I was doing software engineering, still consider myself a software engineer, but software engineering is in a very interesting spot right now, right? Where for the past decade or two, it's like that was a very, touted and sought after job. Whereas now it's extremely under question, right? Where, and I mean, not just software engineering, right? A lot of other jobs, with that as well. But yeah, I'm just really kind of taking a step back, really trying to understand where do I want to go from here, right? And it's weird too, like being in a spot where I didn't think I would be here before. Like, I didn't think I'd have multiple properties. I didn't think I would have been working at Microsoft or whatever. So I'm really trying to understand like what is what's the next best step that makes sense. Like that's always what I'm kind of looking at and trying to focus on. And I don't know if it's jumping back into big tech. I will say there are some very lucrative and shiny AI roles out there around building AI products and whatnot. But with that being able to be taken away from me, right? I'm not sure that I want to continue to just bet the farm on that, right? And I already had that kind of mindset in my head, right? Kind of like you were saying, like let me just in case get some stuff on the side, just in case this kind of goes south, right? And I mean, again, like I'm in a very blessed and like privileged position to where I'm not missing any meals. I'm not getting evicted. Thank God. It'd
Come
be
on
me
now.
evicting myself. So I don't think I do that to me, right? But yeah, so really just trying to take a step back to understand what do I want to go from here. And like, I do think tech will be blended in with that. I don't know if I'll jump 100% back into a 9 to 5. I don't know that I'll take the realtor exam, and join Ekabo Home. Although that might be
Come
an
on,
option.
hey, we want you, but go ahead. Hey, well, that'll be a longer conversation.
Yeah, that's something we'll talk about. But yeah, so really taking a step back to travel, enjoy life a little bit, which I think, especially being in America, right, being in such a grind culture, and I think being surrounded by high achievers like yourself, like AJ, like other folks that I know, it can kind of be weird to be in a place like this, but I'm taking it with gratitude. I'm taking it one step at a time. And I think that real estate, tech, entrepreneurship in some way will be blended into the next step. So who knows? We'll see.
Come on now. I love this. And when you do get back and take your time, I know you're having some fun. When you do get back, hit me up. Would love to go grab brunch, coffee, whatever, and hang out. Because the
Absolutely.
cool thing about now being on your own is you do have that time to think, you have that time to take on new opportunities. And one of the things I did before making that jump from the W 2 was really write down the things that I liked in that W 2. And for me, I like sales, right? I like sales and I liked investing in real estate. And one of the things I didn't have when I moved down to the Metro of Atlanta and the new role I was in was actually being able to get out in the field and do that, one-on-one with the customers, with the clients, things of that nature. And I missed that. And so moving into real estate was part of leaning into my quote unquote unique ability and something I really enjoyed and building it up and then seeing that there could be other adjacencies there. And so I have no doubt that you're going to see and find your way from that standpoint. And then you're spot on. When you look at what's going on with AI right now and with all these different industries, I mean, as you know, we just gave birth to our son like about a month ago. And so when you look at how quickly it's changed over 2 years, I can imagine what's going to look like a decade or 15 years from now. Like we're all going to have to figure out something. And so, yeah, it's better to get an early start in it in my mind. And I love the fact that you're taking some time away. I did the same thing. I took a trip to Costa Rica for a couple of weeks and it was like, all right, it's good. It's different when you can wake up and you don't constantly think about, hey, I got to check this email, I got to do that, this, that, and the other. Like you can focus on just being productive in whatever
Yeah.
manner that means.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's weird almost, right? Waking up and like for so long having that kind of thing in front of you that you go and check your email, or for me, check Teams, right? See what's going on. And also, congratulations, by the
Thank
way. That's
you.
huge.
Come on now. I appreciate
Congrats
it.
on being a new dad. I'm sure you're
Thank
gonna
you.
kill
Thank you.
that. Yeah, man. It's weird, but yeah, taking it one step at a time. And I think also too, like for a long time, I've been looking for kind of the next thing. And like, even when I got the first property, I was like already thinking about the second. I was already looking across the street, like, like, that house kind of looks nice. So, uh, yeah, I definitely, no matter what in the future, want to continue to acquire real estate because I think, especially in the time that we're in seeing the shift that AI is bringing and how it's, causing a threat of so many jobs. I think one thing that I've kind of realized and having some of the time to think, one thing that's not going away, I feel like, is ownership, right? And then also in tied in with that, like land, right? In kind of owning land, right? So, as we go on, the possibility of owning land, in my opinion, is only gonna get, lesser and less possible, right? As people continue to buy, as we continue to develop. So, and also in terms of AI, it's like, someone has to own that, right? Someone is behind, the open AIs and the Anthropics and the SSI, super intelligence, whatever, all the different companies, right, racing to develop these large language models. So, yeah, I think I really want to, even though eventually I might in some 9 to 5 role, who knows? I don't want to lose sight of the fact that I feel like ownership is key. Land, real estate, all of that. I still want to continue to combine that in my strategy. So yeah, we'll see. Let's
100% agree.
definitely talk when I get back.
100% agree. Done and done. And it's one of those where I started to look a lot more at the macro environment and listen to like a lot of different podcasts just about the economy and the world in general. And especially with the tariffs that have been introduced and are getting set into place right now, one, it's making the cost to build homes a lot more expensive. And so we've been seeing the build volumes go down. There's still some of the supply hitting the market that was starting to get built back in like 2022 and things of that nature. But when you kind of zoom out and you look at the next 5 years, we're still going to have a lack of housing again when it starts to hit that 2027, 2028 timeframe. And so I'm all about trying to stack up as many houses as I can. As you know, I'm constantly looking. Now, this year, I'm kind of out of it until early next year, where I got to wait till my guy can hold his head. But once he can hold his head, which is about the 6 month mark, we right back out there. I want to get some more, especially heading into World Cup season.
Oh
And
yeah.
Claudia, this is kind of good for you too. You can see that Desmond started in this path not too far before you, and he's continued down that way and been able to now start to reap some of those benefits and rewards. And so, for your record, Desmond, Claudia is doing a house hack right now in a single family with roommates, and her next step is to go after that duplex, maybe a triplex, and try to make it happen from there.
Awesome.
Yep. Yes, sir. Let's speak it into existence. Yeah, I'm going to Venice. It's all good. I'll be all right. Hopefully, I'll be like that. Like,
Hey, come
like
on now, nothing wrong with it. And while I have you two, we're gonna be sending out messages and things here soon, but we're doing another event. This will be just a fun event. Get your pickleball ready. We running out of place for end of September. Nas is gonna have all the details and send it out, but we're gonna get like a pickleball tournament going. A Cabo home sponsored. So excited to see you guys there if you're in town. That'd be pretty fun. That's something I picked up a little while ago and have had fun playing. So we're gonna get
you
that
know,
I'll
going.
be there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
I've
be there. Count
I've
me in.
Hey,
never
listen, you
played
got to redeem
pickleball
yourself from
before.
the air hockey. I don't know what happened over there.
No, no, you
I was
don't
like,
say
yeah,
that,
Desmond,
man.
you get beat by Deanna. Hold up, what's going on
I,
here?
I was
You know,
wore out, man. I already had a couple of wins under my belt, you know.
Hey, that's fair.
Yeah, ain't
That's
give me a
fair.
water break, you know.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. We
That's
didn't
funny.
set it up the right way. I know that was a little like, hey, this ain't a tournament at all.
yeah, I never played pickleball before. What is it in comparison to
Oh,
like handball or something?
so have you played tennis before?
Yeah, well, something like yeah, I have. I don't know what tennis
Pickleball is like
is.
a cross between tennis and ping pong. It's not quite as you can stand in the same spot as ping pong, but it's not running a whole court like tennis, and it's a lot easier to pick up than tennis. Tennis is kind of hard. Pickleball, not so much. It's kind of easy to hit the thing, and it's fun. And you play in pairs, so it's not just all you trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm cool. I'm down with that. I'm pretty
yeah.
athletic, so I think I could get down.
Come on now.
Same. I've never played either, but I am pretty competitive. So I'm gonna start watching some videos. I'm starting to get my
Yeah.
strategy down now. You know, I'm trying to get the hand hold of the racket or whatever it's called.
Hey,
But no, so I will say I will try to be there. I'm gonna be back in 2 weeks, but I did want to ask you one question, right? And kind
please.
of um going back to what you said about, sort of facetiously about like the real estate exam and stuff, but like I am curious to hear your opinion on what do you think it's like kind of getting into the market now as a new real estate agent, right? And this is, more of a broad question for even, other potential agents or future agents listening, right? There was the big court case, right, around the change in at least I think the transparency of the commission and at least that being much more up for debate than it was, right? I think in general, everything is up for debate in the contract, but now it's a lot more apparent that that commission rate is up for debate. And then also too, just in the market that we're in a I think 30-year low of home buying, in a builders like deficit, if you'll call it that, right? So what is that like now, right? And how is your team kind of adapting to that? How are new agents coming into your team handling that? Because I know you guys are always continuing to grow. And like, what is that like now? Because I'm not gonna lie, that thought has like crossed my mind, right? Especially as it relates to like being an investor friendly realtor, like even a house hack friendly realtor,
Come
right?
on
Even
now.
going more niche. So yeah, curious to hear your opinion.
Yeah, so I love this question, and we actually just welcomed another member to our team today. I met with him today. We had the interview. He's a flipper and just got his license and wants to go and help other investors. So that was pretty cool. And so what I'd say is, you're right. We're in a 30-year low for transaction volume, and last year was another low for transaction volume. So this is just continuing that trend. At some point, it will reverse and start to go back up, but that's not this year. Right now, it's really low. The thing that you have to be now is a specialist. With everything that they did with NAR, that lawsuit last year or 2 years ago, I'm blanking on. I think it was 2 years ago. That lawsuit that hit, where now there has to be a lot more of the quote unquote transparency with where the commissions are coming from. It's really separated. It's almost eliminated the middle, if that makes any sense. You either got to be a top tier agent or you're going to be just scraping at the bottom. And so when you're looking at the commission discussion, this is something that you have to be firm on what you believe the value that you're bringing is. Otherwise, you could end up doing stuff for free. And a lot of the stuff you do for free anyway for a lot of individuals, where you're driving around, checking out different properties and things of that nature. What I'd say is, if you're a solo agent, you've got to come in with a strong strategy, and you need to have some sort of background, whether it be in sales or actually in real estate, like an investor that's going to help you along. And you want to come with a niche. before or back in the day, people would just say, "Hey, I'm a realtor," and people were excited about, "Oh, yeah, my brother's a realtor. Let me hire that person." Now you need to have a specialty, otherwise, people won't remember you, right? And so we always had the specialty of being the investor friendly realtors. And so what that's led for our team is that while everybody's saying, hey, transaction volume's down, this is one of the slowest years, we've actually continued to increase every year. So this year we're on track to close roughly 10 million more in transacted volume than we did last year. And last year we closed more than we did in 2023. And so we're still accelerating and doing bigger and bigger deals, but it's because we niche down into that investor market. And we look at being an investor, this is one of the best times to buy, right? You can negotiate crazy deals. We had a property, it's going to be a luxury short-term rental where it was originally listed for 1.8 million in October. It's come down, come down, come down. Right now it's listed for 1.6. We put in an offer at 1.3 net. It was, credits, things of that nature, but it was 1.3 net. They came back and we negotiated it to 1.45. But this home's going to appraise for at least minimum 1.65, 1.7, and we could potentially get it for 1.45. And so this is the time period to go out there and really make deals happen from an investor standpoint. And because we have that niche, a lot of leads come our way. And another thing about being investor friendly, as you know, is most people only buy a property once every 7 years. And that's 80% of the market. The 20% of us that are investors are buying a lot more rapidly. And we may get three, four properties in that same 7 year period. And so when you look at the lifetime of partnering with investors, it's actually a lot more lucrative as an agent than going out there and working with regular people. The only difference is you have to be skilled. Like you got to actually know. And the fact that you are an investor and have done this multiple times, you know way more about real estate than half the realtors out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's yes, very interesting to hear. And I definitely think that makes sense in terms of niching down. And I feel like that, goes in general almost for like a service that you're offering, right? Like when times get hard, like when you have a specific niche or a specific lane that you're in, especially, specifically with real estate and you tailoring to investors. Investors are typically always looking to buy, right? I always think about the, famous Warren Buffett quote, right? Where, when people get, I don't know, I'm probably going to butcher it, right? But when people get scared, right? Or that's when you start to buy. And then when people really start to get greedy, that's when you start to pull back. I butchered that, a bit, but that's the gist of it. And I think that's super interesting. And I definitely feel like that makes a lot of sense. I'm not surprised at all to hear that you guys are continuing to grow, especially with you at the forefront. Uh, Also curious to hear too about how the storage units and the apartment,
Townhomes?
complex, yeah, townhomes slash, super, uh, like it's a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
I think, in terms of like coming from buying, 4 units or a couple of properties here and there, like moving up to a deal like that, I feel like that's very big. So I'm really curious to hear how that's going, how that's been for you. And then also, I know you're also doing stuff in Atlanta as well, with the flips and also, the, different house hacks that you and your wife are doing. So just curious to hear about how that's going and how it's been for you as the markets continue to change.
Man, okay. So storage going amazing. Like this thing, it definitely took longer to build than you would think. And all you got to do to know what it's like to go into commercial property is just add a zero to everything you're doing right now, right? So, the earnest money, add a zero. Okay, due
Yeah.
diligence, add a zero to all the inspections you got to do. It's like, okay, this is a lot of money going out. And you blink and it's like, okay, that was like 200K just gone like quickly.
Oof.
But that storage piece, we always had it set up in a way that if we could get to about 50% occupancy, that's when it covers itself. And then anything above that starts to be gravy. And so we hit that 50% mark back in May, which is awesome. It took a little while. We had to figure some things out. I'm definitely going to get better now. And it's all a learning curve. Like the same way that Claudia is learning, like, hey, how do I put together the lease agreements for these first couple tenants? And the same way you learn, like, hey, how do I run an active short-term rental the first couple times? We had to learn how to do the storage, but now we've got a VA in place who's answering all the phone calls and knows how to do his thing. And we have a maintenance guy that's the boots on the ground to go cut locks, do auctions if need be, and help people in person. And so now we're at 58% occupied. And now we're going to start ramping up the marketing. And I believe we're going to get to 70% by the end of Q3 because we have one, signage actually going up. We haven't had signage this whole time because we've been fighting with the city to get that piece, and they finally approved that piece. And we have a partner that's going to help with that. And two, we're going back to doing the postcards, which work really well. So storage is great. Townhomes, not so much, right? This one has been just dragging on, right? And so originally we had the plan approved to build 105 townhomes. And once we finish the storage, it's a semi-residential area, and this is the first time they've had some bigger things out there. And so neighbors are complaining about just, oh my goodness, there's dirt that's draining from here to the street, all the stuff. So it's random things. And so people will show up to the town halls and just similar to how people show up to Airbnb town halls and they're like, oh, not in my backyard. Same thing for what we're trying to do. And so, long story short, they came back to say, hey, really, you can only do 88 townhome units because if we look at this little, whatever, you need to have X amount of green space. And at 88 townhomes, it doesn't make sense. Like the numbers, like the extra 20 or so is what we need to cash flow. And so now we're trying to rethink this thing. And it's been a bit of a fight to try and get that townhome piece. So now we've got to figure out if we can get them back up to 105, or maybe we need to switch it over to an apartment complex, which there's apartment complexes. We can get to over 100 there. It's just not as nice, and you have to differentiate it somehow. And so that's on pause right now. The investments in Atlanta have been awesome, right? Like that's my bread and butter. Continuing to do house hacks, continuing to do small multifamily, like that's never going to go out of style. And if I could build out my whole portfolio out here with that, I would. Um, and I'm going to continue doing that, right? I think investing in your backyard is one of the best things you can do because you can see the progress and have a little bit more of a less risk because you know kind of everything that's going on around the city because you live here. But that's the update. Storage, great. Townhomes, not so much. We're still trying to figure it out. And Atlanta is always going to be the bread and butter.
Yeah, shout out to Atlanta. And I think we're getting close to time, right? It's still 45 minutes.
We
Okay,
are,
so
but hey, you got the last, go for it.
yeah, because I want to ask the question of like, because getting into commercial, right? I think that's like the next step up from coming out of residential, right? It's kind of like taking off the training wheels, like, all right, we're really doing this thing. And even residential can be a, big thing in itself. But can you talk a little bit more about the commercial and like in terms of like the underwriting and like you said, like you needed like, 20 more properties to like make it work. So like, is it you? I think it's your realtor that you're working with, right? Like,
Yep.
is it you guys running those numbers and really like doing the kind of deal analysis and like because like you said, right, like it's a lot of zeros, right, when it comes to a deal like this. So it's not, and even a 4-unit multifamily can be a fair number of zeros, particularly in Atlanta. So can you talk about that a bit and how I guess detailed you had to get when doing that analysis and like I think you might have even had investors. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure. Yeah,
On a
so like
townhome project. Yep.
in a sense, like you're running a syndication, and now you have these people that you have to answer to. So that doesn't sound like a walk in the park necessarily. So I'm really interested to hear like how you guys have like drilled down on those numbers, like solidified them, especially again with it not necessarily being your backyard. I know you have units in Louisville, but can you talk a bit more about that? Because I'm very interested in the commercial space. You're multiple times either on Bigger Pockets or on the market, which I think you listen to too.
Come on.
That's where the money is made, right? So can you talk about that and just how that's been?
Yeah. So the first time I went into commercial was when I bought 12 units back in 2018 or 2019 in Louisville, Kentucky. And that was just a 12 unit deal. It was three separate fourplexes, but it was all deeded together. So I bought all of it. And that was when I made my first mistake in commercial, which I never made again, which is the underwriting. Underwriting commercial deals with lending is completely different. Up to that point, I had bought a lot of duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes. I'm like, yeah, 20% down. It's going to look like this interest rate. This is great. You're locked in for 30 years. Commercial is nothing like that, right? And so commercial is more like, hey, you're going to get a loan that's going to give you a 5 year, and then you have a balloon, and maybe it's amortized over 20 years. instead of 30, right? And so that's pretty typical for commercial. And that 20-year amortization versus 30 can change your numbers drastically. You can go from cash flowing to like negative. And so that first 12 unit was a rude awakening once we got into the numbers. I was like, okay, it still worked, but not nearly as good as I thought it was going to be when I was first looking at it. So that's the first major thing. And so if you're going to go into commercial, I've had a couple clients where they're like, hey, I'm looking at this 6 unit property and then also this 4 unit. I'm like, dude, it doesn't even make sense to go after a 6 unit. You should go do the 4 unit, right? Because the 4 unit's going to get you way better financing and way more cash flow because that financing is better. Not to mention commercial, the interest rate's a little bit higher. When it comes to commercial, the good thing is you're typically going to partner with a local or small bank on whatever project you're doing, and they're running their numbers as well. They don't want to lend money to a project that they believe is going to fail. They want to make sure that you can cover the mortgage and some with that property, and they're not looking necessarily at your income. So the cool thing about commercial is it's no longer you that has to qualify. Like, hey, okay, Desmond's going to pay back this house. It's all about the property itself and your game plan for executing and how much money that property can bring in. And so now that it's not just you, you can bring in partners to have other pieces. You can bring in partners that can help with any type of rehab. You can bring in partners that want to just invest dollars. And so that's something that we were able to do for the townhome piece. Now, the good thing with the townhomes is we got the commitments for the money, but we did not take the money until we wanted to break ground. And so we still have some of the parties committed. There's a few people that dropped out and invested in something else because this has taken a long time, but we still have the feelers out there for when we do want to break ground on that. But we purposely didn't take the money. We just set it all up until we were able to break ground on that. That's one way to avoid any issues. And then we just keep people updated on a consistent basis and just let them know what's going on, like the real of what's going on. Hey, this thing popped up. We didn't feel comfortable moving forward at 88 units because the numbers don't work. And so now we're trying to reconfigure it. With the storage, it was a little bit different. The storage only cost about 2.2 million to build, and we got 80% of that financing from the bank. And so my realtor partner and I were able to go ahead and just knock that piece out, which is amazing. And to have less people in the deal is actually better because it helps you move a little more quickly, more agile, and you have a bit more control. The townhome project is something that it just costs a lot more. It's 20 million to build. I don't have that 20 million sitting somewhere, right? We got to go get from the bank, go get from partners and make that piece happen, but only if it makes sense. And so when you look at the commercial versus the small multis, I would say if you can do a small multi every single year, like a duplex, triplex, quadplex, I would start with that on the portfolio and then look to commercial. Now that we've stabilized the storage and I see it ramping up, ramping up, ramping up, I would love to do another one of those in the metro of Atlanta. I think it would be amazing. Like now I know all the systems, I know all the mistakes that we made and how we can get it ramped up a lot quicker. But that learning curve is a bit steeper. So I'd recommend partnering with somebody that hopefully has experience in that. So it's not the blind leading the blind, or at least partner with somebody like I did that knows that area like the back of their hand and can get some things through. Because Monica has been invaluable out in Taylorsville because she literally helps sell just about everything in Taylorsville. So she knows the head of commerce and the people that we can go to get things through.
Yeah, that's big. That's big. And I think that's a very interesting point too, right? Comparing like the 6 units, like the 4 unit, because I kind of feel like that, you know, probably is typically the case, right? Like when you're trying to step into a commercial property that's just slightly above residential, but isn't, something as big as like an 100 or even like a 20 or like a 12, right? It might not make that much sense. And I'm curious to hear, like, do you think that's the case even for like an investor type of small multifamily, or does that typically only work as an owner occupy? Because like that was a huge help and like blessing for me being able to enter into that, owner occupy financing and put those very low down payments down. I'm really at this point a fan of having low money into the deal and kind of, putting kind of, I don't want to say betting the farm, but putting more of stake into the deal and, being convinced that that's going to work out and cover itself compared to me having to put, half of the cost of the building down. So like, does that make sense only, really for owner occupied? Does that make sense for investor purchased multifamilies? Because I'm not going to lie, that 20% down payment is something I've kind of try to stray away from and stay
That's
away
fair.
from, because that compared to 5% or 3.5% is like a big difference, right? Especially when you're talking about, multiple zeros and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So like, is there a certain unit count for, and I know I've kind of asked multiple questions, and I'm not, here to try to interview you, but I'm just so curious, when we talk about, the different deals you have going on, I think, a lot of, people that join the podcast and listen to the podcast, see you as like, the next step or maybe the next few steps down the road, or like, as sort of the blueprint of how it can be done. So I'm curious to hear, like, is there a certain unit count where like, oh yeah, this definitely makes sense? Like you hit like 50 and it's like, no matter what, go for that. Or like, obviously 50 is a lot, or maybe 12 or 20. So like, just how do you see that as we, start to wrap up?
Absolutely. So to your point, if you're gonna buy like a small multifamily, 4 units or less, and put 20% down, it should work out even better because now you've got more of a down payment in. And typically when we're looking at properties, we're looking to hit that 0.8% rule for a long-term rental, at least in the Metro of Atlanta. And so that means that if you're buying a house for, say, um, you know, uh, easy math, 400,000, right? You want it to be able to rent for at least, is this easy math? 0.8% for 100,000. Let's do that one. For 100,000, you want to be able to rent for at least $800 per month, which is 0.8% of the purchase price. Same thing with multifamily. And so if you're putting down 20%, you're essentially hitting the 1% rule for what you have in the actual deal, if that makes any sense. You put down 20%, it's renting for 0.8% of the total piece. So you're at 1%. It's going to cash flow as a long-term rental. So that's one piece. When it comes to going into more of that commercial space, it's all about just running the full numbers. Like you really have to run all the numbers on that. There's not really a rule of thumb that you're looking for because your financing is going to be different. Your interest rate is going to be different. The term is going to be different. I'm always a fan of trying to get the longest term you can, right? And so, like, for example, for the storage, we were able to get a construction loan and then refinance it into a 25-year fixed loan. Now, that's almost unheard of. Now, the fixed loan is a high interest rate, but we'll take it because we don't got to worry about fluctuations in the market and things of that nature. Like it's just set and it's over 25 years. I'd rather have 30, but typically it's 20 in the commercial world, so this is fine. Um, so is there a set number that you need? I would say no. It really just depends on the deal. And then what I've been looking for more and more is the neighborhood itself. Like, is this on the path of progress? Do I see other things happening around here? Is this unit going to stand the test of time? And can I make money over time? Because at the end of the day, cash flow is great, but what's going to make you wealthy is that home appreciating over time. And so I've like even the house I bought here, like the duplex, this is off the South Side Beltline. It does not make sense as a long-term rental right now. It will over time, but right now, not at all. Have to do a short-term rental in the back to accomplish what we're doing. And if we moved out next year, we'll probably have to short-term rent the front, at least for the near term. But over time, we're in an awesome location. That value is going up and to the right. I can see all these different areas getting knocked down, rebuilt. They got a new food hall going in like 2 blocks away. Literally, it's getting finished up right now. The Beltline's going to be done in Q1. And so I'm like, all right, this is going to be a great area to be in 2, 3 years from now once this thing is finished up. So let me buy that one.
Take notes, folks. You heard it here first.
Hey,
Buying
come
the
on now.
South Side Beltline.
Hey, well, Desmond, I appreciate you tuning in all the way from the other side of the world in Venice. I hope that you guys have an awesome time. Please take plenty of pictures, and we'll definitely link up when you come back. And Claudia, we appreciate you joining on this first open session back. We are going to be back consistently every Wednesday. And guys, I hope you have an awesome rest of the week.
You as well. Take it easy, Nee.
All
See you
right, have
guys.
a good one, Nee. Nice meeting you,
That's it.
Desmond.
Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast track your path to financial independence.